EA have just had their quarterly earnings call, and it looks like the company has done pretty well. They've made a whole bunch of money. So well, in fact, that they want even more money and are doubling down on live service games. So what does this mean for their current products like Apex Legends and Battlefield, and future releases like Jedi Fallen Order? Here to discuss it with me is Mr. Gareth Evans. How are you doing, sir?
Good, thank you. Good. Let's talk about EA and how greedy they are.
Fabulous. That's pretty easy, and it sets up real nice because they spend a lot of time boasting about how great their figures are. So there's a lot of billions and millions and whatnot flying around, especially in terms of digital stuff. So quickly, just to run through them, their net revenue for last quarter was 1.35 billion, which is a big old number.
135000000.
Let's just say there's a lot of zeros.
Money, money, money.
And apparently 68% of that was digital, which makes up 922 million, which is a huge amount, up 61% from last year. And that's not just unit sales, that's all the microtransactions and stuff, where they got FIFA Ultimate Team and whatnot. Apex Legends has done pretty well and hit 70 million players apparently, although it always seems like people are saying the game's dead. I think even we've talked about the game being dead, but apparently there are 70 million unique players in there somewhere. FIFA 20 Ultimate Team unique players are up 22% year on year. Madden NFL 20 Ultimate Team unique players are up 19%. Sims 4 average monthly players are up 40% year on year, and 50% of Xbox and PS4 titles were digital this quarter over last year's 40%. So they've had a pretty good year. Their service games are doing well. They're getting money from all their microtransactions. Everything's going digital, which is good for them. They're pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I wonder how much of this increased player numbers is down to subscriptions and how many people are playing because they're subscribed now rather than having to pay out every year. I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah, there's no doubt that is a factor. So they're so keen on it that they are doubling down on live services. And that's an actual quote from Blake Jorgensen, who is the CFO/COO, so he's quite an important fella. And the quote is as follows: "The strong results this quarter illustrate the power of our live services and our core franchises. Strength in Ultimate Team, The Sims 4, and FIFA Online drove live services performance above our expectations. Looking ahead, we are doubling down on live services combined with our core franchises. We're investing in games that people play for longer and engage with much more deeply. This focus will continue to drive growth and profitability for the company through the remainder of this year and beyond." So live services have always been what EA are about, but now they're pushing it even harder. It's performed well for them. They've earned a lot of money from it. But my particular fear regarding this is their upcoming curveball to their current portfolio, which is Jedi Fallen Order, a single-player, narrative-driven game. So what does this live service idea mean for that? Because most of their games are live services already, and this one's kind of an anomaly these days.
Yeah, like you said, they don't focus on this type of game, and it is them kind of diversing their portfolio when it comes to the Star Wars franchise. They haven't done a game like this, which is single player. I can't even remember the last one. And obviously they've got Battlefront 2, which they're still kind of supporting and they're still updating. So it kind of makes sense to let that game breathe because it's seen a bit of a resurgence according to what they've been talking about. And rather than stepping its toes and release another live service Star Wars type game, they've gone this route and offered something different to the players who want that type of experience, which is like me and you. The thing is, hopefully, that they can do this without over monetizing it. And this is always a caveat, right? Yes, it's a great Star Wars game that we're all highly anticipating, but can they do it without EAing all over the fucking place?
Exactly. Your EA is showing Respawn, be careful. That's the risk with it, is because they could do it in the typical way, which is adding in microtransactions, and Vince Zampella from Respawn has promised that there won't be any. He said that numerous times, they've been publicly on record about that. But then down the line, they could just do it's just cosmetics type thing for your lightsabers, your character outfits and colors for your droid and ship and whatnot. Or it could just put the whole franchise in potential jeopardy in terms of sequels, because they already don't like this sort of game, so why would they do it twice? Because I feel like if this game is a huge success, then they might do a sequel, but if it's not hitting their 6 to 8 million unit sales projection, which is quite a big sales target, it's going to be considered a failure and they won't get the backing for a potential sequel.
Well, this is the way that EA do things. They release a game and then they monetize it in addition to purchase of the game. Now, it seems that this game will only be monetized with the initial purchase. That's what we know so far. And if it does fail to meet those sales targets, how far are they willing to go in order to recoup the money that they think they're going to get? Because they're promising so much to the investors, oh, please give us your money because we're going to return so much money because we're selling all these games. And if they don't meet those targets, then the temptation will be there to monetize the additional things that they could do in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and they haven't decided to do that yet. So it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out if they don't meet those sales targets.
Another thing that they brought up in this this earnings call was upcoming game called NBA Live 20, which is supposed to be a rival basketball sports game to NBA 2K20. And now that game was already a toxic tire fire when it came out and everyone hated it. There's gambling, everything in there. There's a slot machine, there's a Wheel of Fortune, whatever you can think of, it's in there. So without this basketball game, if you're a fan of that genre, you're probably fresh out of luck this year because it's being bumped until next year. And Andrew Wilson, CEO and all-round Bond supervillain, said they were trying to make an experience designed around new ways for players to engage, connect, and create through basketball. Now with greater understanding of the new platforms and what they can power, bringing social connection, accessibility, and player creativity to the forefront, we feel we can go much further with the new design. So we've decided not to ship an NBA Live game in fiscal year 20. Instead, we're expanding our vision for NBA Live to continue to work closely with our NBA and NBA Players Association partners on this new project that we'll share more details on next year. Now, the thing I like about this is the bringing social connection, because Andrew Wilson famously loves social connection and says that that's the very core motivation of why people play today. That's one of the bullshit reasons they love games as a service. No, it's not. No one wants. Well, some people want to do that. That's perhaps the incorrect way to say it.
We don't play to have fun. We don't play to, just have good games. We play because we want social interaction, because we lead soulless, meaningless lives in our basements in the dark, and we don't have any social interaction. We need games to do that, because we couldn't just ever go outside or talk to somebody in the street or talk to anybody anywhere. I realise what I'm saying now sounds a little bit far-fetched because we don't talk to random people. But still, the point remains, right? We don't need games for social interaction, dipshit.
Exactly. That's why I brought this one up, because it's a basketball game. I don't really care. This doesn't bother me, but it's probably going to bug people who were banking on NBA 2K, and it turned out that it was a complete shit show. So then maybe they're holding out, oh no, there's going to be NBA Live by EA, and maybe that'll be better. Yeah. No, you're not getting that one.
It's very unusual for them to delay a sports title like this. The early sports titles is their bread and butter, right? The Madden, the FIFA, and the NBA 2K20. Obviously, they're taking an extra little bit of time to work on it. The reason is because they want to put more social interaction in there. No, nobody buys that shit. It's because of other reasons that they're not divulging here. Who knows? Maybe it's because they've not been able to monetize it properly. Maybe because the competition's so hot in the basketball scene that they just will fail versus the competition. So they're just going to give it another year to work on. I don't know.
Well, NBA Live isn't the only game they've delayed, and they've delayed, well, not necessarily delayed, but said that there's no Battlefield game happening next year at all. Now, the last one came out in 2018, and Battlefield's not quite a yearly franchise in the same way Call of Duty is, because they don't have a million different studios working on different ones. It's pretty much just DICE for the most part. Sometimes there's a few others involved, but there's not going to be one next year, and it's going to be coming in the year after. So Andrew Wilson again reads, our Battlefield franchise and its community are a major focus for us, and we'll add new content and new ways to play Battlefield 5 in fiscal year 21, targeting new innovation that will be enabled by next-gen platforms and a growing install base on the new consoles. Our next Battlefield game is set for fiscal year 22. So there's going to be no Battlefield game until somewhere between April 2021 and March 2022.
So delaying Battlefield kind of makes sense as opposed to delaying NBA Live, because the reason that they've put is because they're expecting a new generation of consoles next year and they want a larger installed base for when they release the next Battlefield. And I'll read a quote here. Remember, the goal of Battlefield for 22 is to really take advantage of larger install base on the new consoles. Bringing out Battlefield next year, where the new console base is fairly small, doesn't really give justice to the potential of the title. And so that's part of our driver in moving the title into fiscal 22. So think about it as a multi-year growth model that we just try to lay out for people, and we're pretty excited about it.
It's basically saying there's no point launching next year because there's not going to be as many people playing it, because there's not going to be as many people owning the new systems. And so to me it sounds like they're saying, why make millions when we could wait and make billions?
Billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and...
That does make sense as a no-brainer, but if you are a Battlefield fan, this probably is going to be disappointing. However, I try and think of it as, well, the longer you have to wait, the more development time DICE should have, in theory.
Obviously, there's pros and cons. For one, people expecting a new Battlefield game who weren't happy with Battlefield 5, then obviously it's a bad point for them. But for people who are enjoying Battlefield 5, they're bringing the new Pacific
update thing, which is going to add
a whole
some stuff.
new arena for players to play in soon. So this continues to support Battlefield 5 for the players who do play that, and also it gives them extra time for the next Battlefield game. I don't oppose this at all. I think this is probably the best move for everybody.
Yeah, and it does align with their continuing the service-based model, because then they can extend the service of Battlefield 5 and milk that for as much as it's bloody worth. But maybe now that it's going to have a longer lifespan, it can actually get all the content it was supposed to have, because the roadmap is so confused that stuff like private games was meant to already be there, but no one knows when it's coming out because apparently DICE got a different roadmap to what the public have been sent out in PR. It's a big mess.
Well, I think they might have realised now that they can't bring out these games yearly or biannually or whatever because they just need time for these games as a service to breathe, because on day one we know they're not getting the full features because they haven't had enough time for development. They
didn't get Firestorm until March, even though the game came out in November.
Yeah, exactly. And in order for them to capitalise on all the work that they've done on one single game and not tread on that one's toes with a new installment so quickly, they just need to give that game time to breathe and give it like 3 years before the next game comes across. And I think it kind of makes sense for them.
And they're kind of going to supplement the Battlefield first-person shooter market with Apex, which has been a pretty successful game this year, obviously, having hit apparently 70 million players. But we'll kind of come back to Apex in a bit later. But another big bit of news is that EA is actually coming back to Steam. And now for a lot of PC players, this is going to be, well, I would say great news, but most people don't like EA. But if you do like EA, this is great news. So EA do have their own PC games launcher known as Origin, but now they're coming back to Steam, which is obviously the dominant platform, so that they can bring everyone together and be social with all this connection that Andrew Wilson loves so much. And the quote is as follows: "We announced this morning that our plans to bring EA access to stream on PC, adding a fourth platform where players will be able to connect and get the benefits and value of our subscription service. This is a unique and exciting partnership with Valve that will enable us to bring PC players in the Steam and Origin communities together. Helping more players connect to our games whenever and wherever they want to play will be a continuing focus for us."
That sounds all very noble, like they're doing it for the players there. But later on, during the Q&A, Blake Jorgensen actually shows his hand a little bit and kind of divulges exactly why they're bringing the subscriptions to Steam, because it seems like an unlikely thing to do. They've been off Steam for so many years now. They're coming back. This next quote kind of sheds a little light on why they're doing that. "As Andrew mentioned, we're continuing to drive subscriptions across as many platforms as we can. We want to go where the gamers play. And clearly, that was the driver of the Valve Steam approach. It's pretty much an admission that they haven't got enough players there and they need more subscribers, and they're going to Steam to do that." And he carries on, "What we found is that subscribers engage more and spend more money. That's why it's such a great business model. They're very sticky. They tend to stay in the subscriptions longer, and they are looking for great content, and they find games they've never played before, and they start to monetize in those games. That's the reason we're so optimistic about it." And he's talking specifically there to one of the investors who asked a question. So he shows his hand when he's talking to the investors.
Yeah.
It's all about monetization. Subscribers are sticky, and they spend more money in games on microtransactions as opposed to the non-subscribers. So that's why they're pushing for more subs, and they're going to Steam to try and get it because of the larger install base in order to make more money. And that's exactly why they're doing it there.
Calling your potential consumers sticky doesn't sound great to me. It sounds like they're kind of like dodgy criminals, like the wet bandits in Home Alone when they're going through the houses at the beginning. It's like, that's the one because it's got all the good stuff. That's the target. We're going to get them and we're going to nick all their money.
We're no longer the wet bandits. We're the sticky bandits.
I like the way that on one hand the initial pitch was, oh yeah, we're bringing players together and we're doing it, giving you more ways to play, and then as soon as the investors get involved and they're trying to justify their actions to the investors, are like, yeah, it's all about money basically. Yeah. It's just about the money, isn't it? So having read the whole transcript of this investor call, just so that you don't have to, you're welcome, I've picked up a couple of other general points during the reading. Talking specifically about Apex, Blake Jorgensen said, "We are continuing to add new events in each season to try to understand the spending patterns and what people like to spend money on and how much they'll spend, and we'll tune those events over time." So again, he's talking to the investors during the Q&A bit, and then this is where they show the hand. They're bringing new events, not for increased engagement, not for pleasing the players, not to try and improve the game experience. No, they're bringing the themed events like Halloween or whatever to Apex, in quote, to try and understand spending patterns, and then they're going to adjust those accordingly. This implies that the whole focus of the game's development is on the future monetization, and that's the entire problem with AAA development, right? The problem with having to sit in front of your investors every 3 months to try and justify your decisions. It's all about the money, nothing about gameplay innovations, improvements, experimentation, only adjusting to spending patterns.
And that is exactly why Apex is going to be their flagship first-person shooter service game while Battlefield is absent, and people are actually working on that to make it a better game. Apex is just going to be there, oh, we're free to play, but here's all your microtransactions, here's all the stuff you can pay for, extra, pay.
And the other point that struck me during the reading reading of this huge manuscript. We're talking about the investors. Now, if we portray the investors as a bunch of snivelling, blood-hungry vultures circling around our wallets, well, that's because they are.
Very funny.
For example, during the Q&A session, Mario Liu, an analyst from Barclays, asked Blake and Andrew, FIFA Ultimate Team bookings is still expected to grow double digits next year, and you monetize Volta as a number 2 mode. But I don't believe you currently monetize in that mode, as all the cosmetic items can only be earned by playing versus spending money. So,
what a fool.
It can only be earned by playing. God. So is there a possibility in the future to include a battle pass or some friendly monetization mechanism in this mode as well? Literally asking the guys, look, so you're giving all this stuff for free? Like, are you not going to monetize this shit? We already paid for the game, Mario. Fuck you. And another example of this bullshit from the investors is Robert Berg from Berenberg. He's an analyst. How much time players spend in Volta versus your expectations? Is it any more or less? I'm also interested in the appeal, with any, of some of the vanity items. Have you noticed particular interest in customizing? Any thought on setting coins here?
Have you spotted something that people like earning and customizing with? Have you also thought about putting a price tag on it?
Hello, I like money.
This is why the investors are literally the anti-gamers. Like, this is why you can't trust any company that has to answer to investors, because this is what the investors are interested in, monetizing the extra little bits of content that should be included in the price of the game. And it's totally anti-player, anti-consumer. Yep. It's all about making money, and that's why they sit here every 3 months and bullshit to these guys, telling them, oh yeah, we're gonna include more monetization, the figures are going up, we'll get more players, we're gonna get more subscriptions, and we're gonna make you more money. Literally, this is the whole focus of their jobs, literally, is justifying how much money they're making to these investors. That's why you've got additional monetization in full price games these days. That's why there's microtransactions. That's why there's loot boxes. That's why there's all this bullshit in games. It's because of these investors. Full stop.
Yeah, we always blame it on people like Andrew Wilson because we know they're all corporate and gross. But these wankers are just as greedy, and they're part of the problem, if not the main cause of the problem.
Like I said, blood-hungry vultures.
Hold it, lads. Look what's coming our way.
Money.
And on that note, I think that's enough of us complaining about EA again for one day. I'm sure they'll do something else stupid later on in the week. Make sure you let us know down in the comments what you think about this. Are you already sick of EA and their live service bullshit like we all are? Are you worried that Jedi Fallen Order is going to get ruined by it? Are you disappointed that there's not going to be a Battlefield next year? Make sure to let us know. Leave a like, hit subscribe, go on over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming to support the content we create. I've been Henry, he's been Gaz. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.